Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I would like to give all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash, for giving me the spirit to do this lesson. Lord willing, is edifying to the elect. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well, the leaders of all Israelites in these end times, showing us a correct way to salvation. Shalom to you, Arkwaf in order, and you brothers out there teaching. And shalom to the Israelites that look like these other races of people, but their seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, making them a Hebrew Israelite regardless of their appearance, because this truth is not about color. It is about the chosen seed line, and that chosen seed line was scattered among all nations. Therefore, they're going to look like all nations, okay? But the majority of the Edomites, as you see in this image, are going to look like so-called white people, the majority of them, although not all of them are. You know, we make that very clear in our lessons because it's very important for you to know, to clear up any confusion as to what we're about, okay? But, you know, this lesson is going into carry your cross. You know, I want to speak about, you know, how we must carry our cross daily, okay? Because, you know, choosing to walk this path as far as, you know, seeking to be righteous and clean yourself up so you can be accepted of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai on the day of the Lord, you know. Walking that righteous path is not an easy path to walk. It comes with a lot of obstacles. It comes with a lot of challenges. And, you know, there might be times you think, you know, you're doing it, you're handling it, everything's cool, but you're going to have moments in this walk when, you know, life is lifing, let's just say, you know, when life is getting the best of you and everything's hitting you all at once. But what you got to understand is that, you know, these things are put in our lives, these fiery trials, they're put here to test us, you know, to test our integrity and to see if we're going to drop out, you know, see if we'll take our hand off the plow, give up or whatever, you know. The Lord really wants to prove who truly loves him, you know. So it's by default not going to be, you know, a cakewalk. Certain aspects of it can be a cakewalk at times. But you're going to have moments in this walk when everything is just going to seem to go wrong. But you got to stay focused. You can't let that deter you from the mission. And that's what I want to go into in this lesson. And, you know, Lord willing, it's edifying to the elect. So now where I want to start is in, just flip through a few of these for you to see. But where I want to start is in the book of Sirach, chapter 2. And we're going to read this whole chapter, but I'm going to bring out a few precepts and other scriptures that have lined up that are, you know, to this topic. I'm going to bring them out as we go along in this lesson. And Lord willing, you know, you find this lesson comforting and exhorting, you know, because sometimes, you know, life can really weigh on your spirit and bring you down. But that's good. You know, it's good because the sadness of the countenance, you know, maketh the heart better, your mind better, you know. It brings humility to your life. You know, it will humble you when you're going through hell. And that's the state that the Lord wants to see you in. Not that he wants to see you going through hell, but he wants your spirit, you know, corrected. He wants your spirit to be healed, you know, in the form of humility, you know. So it will make you humble when you're, you know, going through certain trials, especially if you're holding on. You know, you can't turn back when these trials come because, you know, a lot of people do that. You know, they get a little test to see how strong they are, you know, and a lot of people that thought, hey, I got this, I'm strong, I love the Lord. A couple of trials later, you know, they're dropping out, taking their hand off the plow, giving up. And that's, you know, one thing I just want to encourage brothers not to do, man, because, you know, everyone's going through it in this walk. But in the grand scheme of things, everything gonna be all right in the end, man. All right, it's the Lord's promise. You know, we just got to keep keep doing what we're doing, because this suffering is blessing in disguise. It's not as bad as what it seems on surface level. So let's get into it, while I, before I, run my gums too much. But this is Sirach 2 starting at 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. And that's what we got to do. We got to prepare our minds to be tested, okay? We got to understand what we're getting ourselves into before we make a decision to, go all the way and walk this path, So you really got to count the cost. You got to be wise. Just don't jump head first into something that you don't really understand what's really going on. Don't come into this walk just because, from the outside it looks cool when we're out there on the street, cussing out these devils. Don't desire to be in this just for, things like that. It's deeper than that. We have to be in it for the right reasons, and that's the key to endurance. Because if you're not in it for the right reason, if you're not rooted, in a pure, genuine, honest and sincere spirit, if you're not rooted in your Hawashai, the truth also, then you're not going to last too long in this walk. And that's a devastating thought, man. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Now, what you're getting yourself involved in, it says, set thy heart aright. Your heart is your mind. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble, because trouble is going to come. So don't flee at the first sign of, trials and tribulations, man. You got to be a man about it, okay? You can't be in that woe is me spirit. Say it's too hard and, back out. If anything, you should be praying harder. You should be getting closer to the Lord during those times, because he's the only one that truly understands what you're going through. So just pour it out to him when you're catching hell, because it gets your heart right. It gets your mind right when you're going through these trials. Like I said, it's a blessing in disguise. You just got to see it for what it is. You could see it as something that is beating you down and be in that woe is me spirit, which is a very dangerous spirit to be in. Or you can be in the spirit of a man, like girding up your loins and just, taking it on the chin and understanding that, we deserve this. We deserve what we're going through, man. Living among these heathen, catching hell. The bills don't stop. That whip keeps whipping, man. Esau's still giving you them strokes, man. Them continual strokes. And it ain't going to let up until, the Lord destroys them. That's why we got to anticipate the Lord's coming, man. So this is verse 3, Sirach 2 and 3. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. So we got to constantly cleave to the Lord as if we're cleaving to life, because that's what it is. For those that recognize it for what it is, that's what it is. Because Yahushua is the way to life. And we're coming into the time of great death. The Bible speaks on this time being the time of Jacob's trouble, when all hell is going to break loose, and it's going to be caused. This war that's happening right now is going to play a big part of that. So that's why we got to cleave to the Lord for protection. It says, cleave unto him and depart not away. Okay, don't give up. It says that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Okay, so the Lord is going to increase us as far as giving us salvation, giving us health and power, rulership, sovereignty, many gifts that the Lord is coming with for, his faithful servants, keyword faithful to the end, right? And the Lord says he'll increase us in the end. He's going to bless you. Okay, it's all going to pay off in the end, man. So it says in verse 4, it says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully. It don't mean you should be, over the moon and excited about catching hell. Otherwise you might be slightly cuckoo upstairs, if you're in that spirit. But, when these trials come, when you recognize it for what it is, you understand that the Lord is building your character. The Lord is working with you, because you got to understand that all good things and bad things come of the Lord. So if you're catching hell, the Lord put that in your path for a specific purpose. Okay. And you got to understand that, the Lord's thoughts are not our thoughts, and we can't be out here leaning upon our own understanding, man. You're like, oh, where's God? Why am I catching hell? You think life's going to be peaches and cream now you're in the truth? Think again. The curses don't stop until Esau is destroyed, okay? That's why we just got to hold on in these last moments, because Esau is determined to try and, sift us, to try and make us fall out. He's trying to wear out the saints, man. You got to see it for what it is. So whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully. It says, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. Because, sometimes you're going to catch hell. Nothing's for certain. Nothing's guaranteed in this world, man. You could have it all going on 1 minute and be, in your security. And then the Lord can throw you, a ball from left field or whatever. Curveball, should I say. And it could all go tits up. Like, kind of like Job. But it's all to test your integrity. You understand the Lord was in control of all the trials that Job had to face. And it's the same thing. We ain't going through half of what Job is going through. I don't care who you are in this truth, man. Job went through it. But, we're all catching some type of hell in our own way, in our own path, in this walk. But whatsoever is brought upon us, take cheerfully, right? It says, be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. So like I said, nothing's guaranteed. You might have a job and security, but you could lose that job and it could all go tits up. But you got to hold on, because nothing stays the same forever. Okay. And if you're truly a servant of the Lord, he ain't going to see you begging bread. He ain't going to he ain't going to put more on you than you can handle. And Lord willing, we'll get into that in a minute, because there's precepts that speak on that. But anyway, so be patient when you're changed to a lower state, okay? Because nothing's guaranteed in this world. You may have it 1 minute and be in a lower state, but when that happens, just be patient, okay? Because you're going to get through it, all right? It says, for gold is tried in the fire. A furnace is a way of refining. It's like a way of purifying. That's what you do when you throw precious metals in the furnace, is to purify, is to get rid of all the impurities. And that's, what the Lord is doing with his elect. He's trying them as gold in the fire. So when you're catching hell, don't think it's something strange, man. Don't think it ain't normal. This is normal. This is what's meant to happen, all right? But how are you going to handle that as a man? How are you going to handle these situations that come along? Yeah, it's stressful. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk. It's definitely going to stress you out. And you may have certain doubts here and there creep into your mind, But then you got to really meditate at that time. Sometimes it helps to just sit in a room quietly in your thoughts. No distractions, and just sit there and think. Really think on the Lord and his word and what it says, and the times we're in, and the trials that we're meant to face, and really just think deep on the whole thing, analyze it, and just pour it out to the Lord, whether you do it in spirit through meditation, or whether you openly out, praying out loud, in your personal, space or whatever. But you got to handle it in the right way, these trials that come, man. You can't let them beat you down and be in that woe is me spirit. That's what I'm talking about. So verse 6, right? Sirach 2 and 6, it says, actually, let me go ahead and start 5 again. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. See? So this is what we're striving for, is to be accepted of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And the way to be accepted is for you to be, tried as fire. You got to pass through the fire, man. Everyone has to go through this in this walk. Not one person in this truth is going to have it easy, because prophecy don't say that. It's going to come upon all of us. So it says in verse 6, it says, believe in him. You might be catching hell, but what does the word say? You're going to be all right in the end if you're of the elect. Believe in him. All right. Trust in him. It says, and he will help thee. It says, order thy way aright and trust in him. So you just got to constantly, keep battling this flesh, really. our spirit is warring with our flesh, man. Okay, constantly, every day, as soon as you open up your eyes, man, even in your dreams, your sleep, you can be attacked in the flesh. Okay, but don't think it's strange. You know what I mean? This is what's meant to happen anyway. It says, believe in him and he will help thee. Order thy way right and trust in him. So we gotta just, focus on continuing to improve yourself and be a man of integrity. Strive to be a great man while you're in this earth, okay? And a great woman for you Aqua, for you females that may be, tuning in. Okay, because this is for you too, It says, ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy and go not aside lest ye fall. So us that fear the Lord, that are in this truth doing what we're doing, this is us showing that we fear the Lord. But what we got to do is wait for his mercy, okay? Because we're still under curses, so don't think it's going to be smooth. But there's coming a day when the Lord's going to take them curses off of us as a nation. And we're no longer going to be going through hell. We're no longer going to be under the authority of the so-called white man. Okay, because he is the current ruler of the earth right now, the nation of Esau, Edom, as the scriptures state, right? And they've turned everything upside down, made life, practically unbearable for every human on earth. But this is all part of the Lord's grand plan, and we just have to play it out, man. The script is already written. We know what it says, and we know what to expect. That's why it says, in verse 1, if you come to serve the Lord, prepare your soul for temptation. You know what you're signing up for. You know what the deal is. So prepare yourself for that. It says in verse 7, Sirach 2 and 7, ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy and go not aside lest ye fall. So we got to wait for his mercy, and we can't go aside, meaning Satan desires to sift us, man. So when certain trials come your way, you got to recognize it for what it is. Maybe, you have certain old friends that try to come back in your life, or you may run into an old girlfriend or wife, should I say, that was not good for you. The Lord might have separated you from her, but somehow she's then crept her way back in. You got to see it for what it is. Don't go aside, man. Stay on that righteous path that you was on. Keep your eyes single. Anyway, I'm going off course. Like, what I'm trying to say is just, don't let things sway you or come into your life that are going to pull you out this truth. Once you recognize it, you cut that off immediately, man, because this is the prize right here. This is our treasure, and we got to treat it as such, right? So it says, go not aside lest ye fall. Verse 8, Sirach 2 and 8, ye that fear the Lord, believe in him, and your reward shall not fail. Okay, so just endure, man. Keep believing, keep holding on to that faith. Keep always pray that the Lord keeps that Holy Spirit on you, man. So verse 9, ye that fear the Lord, hope for good and for everlasting joy. And that's what we hope for. We're prisoners of hope out here, man. And that's all we got. What else have we got? We've got hope in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Everything else, it don't make sense. Let's read verse 10, Sirach 2 and 10. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? See, so all these prophets that we read about in the past, Daniel in the lion's den, the three holy children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the list goes on and on, but you had a lot of, the Lord gave us a lot of examples to help us in these little times. This is why we got to look at the generations of old and see how the Lord handled, these men of integrity that trusted in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Were they ever let down? Do you read about how the Lord never came through for them? And we're living in the most biblical time of all times. You got people talking about how back in the days, those was the Bible days. No, this is more of the so-called Bible days than ever before. We're living in the most important time in the history of mankind, okay? We're living in the eve of the beginning. Esau's end, our beginning. We're living in the beginning of a whole new realm, man. And the Lord is building up the foundation of it as we speak, the foundation of the kingdom of heaven, which will be here on earth. So look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? The answer is no. It says, or did any abide in his fear, right? They didn't walk aside. They stayed faithful. They abided in his fear, right? Did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? The Lord didn't forsake any prophet, man. There's not one place in the Bible where you can see, and this guy, you know, unfortunately, the Lord didn't come through for him. You ain't gonna find no such thing. It says, or whom did he ever despise that called on him? It's because, you know, the Lord has certain people, certain men that he has his eyes on, you know, that his heart is with them. And those are the ones that are, you know, suffering for his sake, for righteousness' sake, for his name's sake. You know, those are the ones that are going to be greatly rewarded, because it ain't an easy path to walk. You know, a lot of people could very easily say, you know, to hell with it. I'm just going to try and have as much fun the last, you know, moments of this kingdom. They could easily give up, and anyone can do it. Well, apart from the elect, but anyone could make a conscious decision to try to do that. You know, the elect won't succeed in giving up, just like Jonah. He tried not to prophesy against Nineveh. And what happened to him? He was in the belly of hell for 3 days. So, as long as you trust in the Lord and abide in his fear, you're going to be all right, man. The Lord won't forsake you. Okay, let's read verse 11, Sirach 2 and 11. For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction. And this is why you got to pour it out to him, because he's the one that truly understands you more than you understand yourself. He created you. Okay, he created every aspect of your life before it was even played out. You know, you may go and, I don't know, walk up to a tree and pick an apple. The Lord already, you know, he already programmed that to happen before it happened. So, you know, the Lord is just waiting to see how you handle. He's sitting watching how you handle certain, you know, trials he throws your way, man. So you just got to keep that in the back of your mind. The Lord is watching me, how I handle this right now. How am I going to handle it? You know, we got to recognize it for what it is, man. And, you know, the wisdom and knowledge that we read of in the Bible, that's what keeps us stable when we go through these trials. That's why it's important to tune into lessons such as these, you know, because they'll help you get through them, you know, these trials. But anyway, I want to, let's jump to another precept and we'll come back to here. All right. I just got a couple I want to bring out. I know I've been drawing it out pretty bad, but I can't help it. So Salakia, I'm just kind of in a zone, in the spirit. It says, Luke 9 and 23, it says, and he said to them all, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily. Okay, hence the title of this lesson. Okay, and this is immediately what I was thinking about. The scripture I was thinking about as I was as I'm going through these trials. And they're comforting, you know, it's very comforting. That's why, you know, we lean upon these scriptures and we understand, you know, how much of a treasure these scriptures are. They're going to help us through these days, okay, while everyone else, you know, they're going to be leaning on their own ways, you know, and you're going to need more than that to get through these days. That's why, you know, us of the Hopeful Elect, we're in a very privileged position, man. These scriptures are our lifeline. Okay, it says, and he said unto them, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself. Right, so basically we gotta decrease and Yahweh Shai has to increase. Okay, so we're more and more giving up our lives and our free time, our plans for the future. You may have wanted to be a rapper or an astronaut, a doctor, who knows, man. But, we deny ourselves that life. We're not seeking to save our life. We're seeking to lose our life. Just as we're about to read, let's just read it, man. Let's just start from the top again. Salakia. Luke 9:23, it says, "And he said unto them, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." I mean, when Yahushua had to carry his cross, that was representation of carrying a heavy burden. He was carrying the sins of the world of Israel on his shoulders during that time. And that's why he says that we gotta take up our cross. We gotta, share in the sufferings of Yahushua so that we can be joint heirs of the kingdom. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. If we partake in the sufferings of Yahushua, which, is only a taste of what he went through, then, we're truly his disciples, So it says, in verse 24, Luke 9:24, "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it." Okay, because in the times we're coming into, right, a man is going to basically have to lay down his life as far as being a part of this society when they roll out the mark of the beast. Okay, which is coming in, the time that the Bible calls Jacob's trouble, which is this system collapse due to this war that's happening. It's going to get really bad, and it's going to bring about the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip and the Neuralink brain chip, which they've almost perfected that technology. And they've got the 6G towers and the data centers up and ready. Or the 6G towers they're working on, but they're throwing up data centers, and this is all to fulfill that prophecy, okay? But there are going to be those that take it because they want to hold on to their life. They want to continue and remain to be a part of this society. It's like trying to still trying to have a good time while the Titanic is sinking. It doesn't make any logical sense. But there's those of us that take the word serious, and there's those that don't. And the ones that don't take it serious, they're gonna fold under this pressure, man, because they're not fully rooted, in the truth in Yahushua. Let's read 25 now. It says, no, actually, let's read 24 again. "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it." It says, "But whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it." It says, so basically you lay down your life for this truth and decide, and you make a decision to walk the hard route, which most people are not going to do. Trust me, they're not going to do half of what we do, because the prophets are going through it, man. But if you willingly do that, your legacy is going to be amazing. That's all I gotta say. It's a no-brainer, okay? It's a no-brainer. But verse 25, Luke 9:25, "For what is a man advantage if he gain the whole world and lose himself or be cast away?" Okay, so what profit is it if you gain the whole world but you lose yourself? There's other scriptures that speak on this and break it down in a different way, but the meaning is the same. It's basically, what profit is it for you to gain the whole world and lose your soul, man? There ain't no profit in that. How you gonna gain the whole world? Like, you save your life on this side and become a part of society and continue to have a roof over your head with some central heating, but you willingly made yourself an enemy of the Lord for that comfort. What profit was that? This is what this is saying. But you get the point, man. And Slacky for taking so long to go through these 3 precepts, but I like to really get into it sometimes, drive it home, because there's a lot in there. There's a lot to unpack in these precepts. Proverbs 24:16, it says, "For a just man," right, a righteous man, a man of integrity, "for a just man falleth 7 times." And you got to understand the word 7 doesn't mean exactly 7. 7 is symbolic, representing completion. So A just man is going to fall a couple of times. However many times he falls, he's going to have a hard time sometimes. It says, and he riseth up again. For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again. So he gets right back on track. He doesn't give up. It says, but the wicked, right? People that are described as wicked shall fall into mischief. Whatever made them fall, they're going to allow it to take over them because they have no, discipline, no self-control, no integrity. This is Sirach 5:4. It says, say not, I have sinned, and what harm have happened to me? For the Lord is long-suffering. He will in no wise let thee go. See, the Lord is very patient, but he's still got that hit out for you if you don't sort yourself out. There is that grace period, but don't take the mickey out of that grace. So don't say, it says, say not, I have sinned, and what harm have happened to me? Hey, I've been sinning all the time, and the Lord cool with me. He allows me to do it. I'm special to him. No, man, you can't be in that mindset. You can't say that. I've been sinning, and the Lord, I'm still good. What harm have happened to me? Because the Lord knows your thoughts, just like I said. All right, he's not a fool. Don't take him for a fool. Don't insult the Lord like that, man. Don't tempt the Lord. It says, for the Lord is long suffering, and he will in no wise let thee go. Your day will come. And, it'll come when you least expect it in your security, man. So it says, concerning propitiation, be not without fear to add sin to sin. Meaning, don't continue thinking it's okay. I've sinned and what harm have done to me, and just keep sinning. Because it's going to catch up to you. Trust me, the Lord is not a fool. It says, and say not, his mercy is great. He will be pacified for the multitude of my sins. Meaning he cool. He cool with me. He going to be all right because, I'm only doing a little sin, and he's very forgiving. The Lord understands I'm trying, but you just keep doing it. You keep sinning and sinning. No, man. You got to get it right. You got to self-examine. Okay, and when you start to feel yourself falling, keep praying. That's when you pray harder. That's when you seek to get closer to the Lord, closer than ever before. Pour it out to the Lord. You got sometimes, like I said, it's good to meditate. Just sit in a quiet room, you and the Lord. It may seem like you're just sat there wasting valuable time. No, you're not. You're really not. Your mind is meditating on the Lord. That means the Lord is acknowledging that moment. But what's going through your thoughts in that moment? The Lord knows. That's why it's important, sometimes to just take a step aside, man. Take a moment, take a breather, take a moment to chill in a quiet space alone and just think. Not think as in a depressed stupor. You're in a beat down, depressed state through out here, just sat in a corner, rocking back and forth. No, man. But sometimes it's nice to just relax your mind. You need peace. You need no distractions. You don't need music, TV in the background, none of that. Just sit quiet in your thoughts with you and the Lord. Whether you pray or whether you pray in your head, you need to sit there and meditate and self-examine. It's really good medicine for the soul. It helps me through a lot of my stress. Let's read it again. Sirach 5:6. It says, and say not his mercy is great. He will be pacified. Meaning, best way to describe pacified is to be, like a pacifier calms a baby down. It's like over in England, they call it a dummy. But the Lord going to be cool, basically. He's going to be chill about it, is what you're saying in your mind, when you keep being a repeat offender. And say not his mercy is great. He will be pacified for the multitude of my sins. For mercy and wrath are from him, and his indignation resteth upon sinners. Okay, there's a difference between sinning and living in sin. If you're living in sin, being a repeat offender, then the Lord's indignation is resting upon you. And during the time of Jacob's trouble, when the doors of mercy are shut and you are outside that ark because you was comfortable in your sin, then you was not of the elect. And that's the time of wrath, when the Lord pours out his indignation and he pulls back his mercy from those that, are living in sin. So I wouldn't take that risk. Okay, you're playing Russian roulette. It says, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. We're trying to get the elect to turn to the Lord, whoever they may be, because, the elect were once in the world living ignorantly, to, the truth, this new song. And you got some out there that hear this truth, but they're watching these videos for entertainment, man. They're not taking action, okay? They're not, the word ain't doing to them what it's meant to do, okay? This word is like a fire. It's meant to tug at your spirit. You're meant to feel that burning desire to get out there and teach. That's what you're meant to feel inside. You're meant to, whether it be teaching or if you're a woman, then, there's other things that the Lord will put in your spirit to do. You'll have that burning desire to do. But either way, you should be desiring and have that burning desire to serve the Lord in whatever way you do. For men, you should be out there teaching, really. We understand not everybody's a teacher, but we gotta make no tarrying to turn to the Lord and to serve the Lord. It says, put not off from day to day. In verse 7, Sirach 5 and 7, it says, put not off from day to day. It says, for suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth. It says, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. Now, we're coming up to the day of vengeance, man. Very close. That's why you cannot, if you got something going on in your personal life that you're battling with, you need to focus to tackle that. All right, I want to read this real quick in the book of 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. It says, there have no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. So these things, these trials that we're going through in our personal life, everybody's going through it. This is, everybody's got different things they're going through. Some may not be going through as much as you, and you got others that are going through worse than you. Most of the time, you can't tell people are going through it. People are good at hiding, what they got going on in their personal life. They always want to, appear like they got it together. But, people are going through hell in Esau's kingdom, man. Everybody's catching hell, and it's only getting worse because the days are getting more evil. The bills are increasing. The pressure of life is increasing. It's just getting crazy. It's all boiling up to, the day of that great and terrible day of the Lord, man. So let's read this from the top again. 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. There have no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. All these temptations and trials we're facing, they are a normal part of life. You ain't special. You're not the only one going through hell, man. It says, but the Most High is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able. Okay. It says, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So it don't matter what you're going through, the Lord will find a way for you to escape. That's why, you got to be patient when you're changed to a lower state, because it's just only a matter of time before things get better. Okay, so the Lord is, whatever temptation is coming upon you, just endure, just keep your eye single and do everything in your might to, not let Satan sift you. Okay, and, the Lord will make a way for you to escape. This is Romans 8 and 28. It says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Most High. So even trials that come your way, it may not make sense to you. You're like, nah, but my trials are different. I know what you're saying, but I'm going through this. This ain't like other trials. This is something, you thinking this something different. It ain't. It don't matter what it is. You're going through a trial that is common to man. But what the scriptures say is that these trials, these things that you're going through, are working together for the good of them that love the Most High. Meaning there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There may be a blessing, in disguise in the midst of, the trials that you're going through. It could bring a positive outcome that is like, damn, I didn't think that was going to happen at the end of all this. But look at you now. I mean, currently as you're watching this video, I mean, do you have a roof over your head? Do you have food in your stomach? Are you still in truth? Seeking Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, got that spirit on you to serve the Lord? Then if you have those things, then you're blessed. You made it through whatever trial that you've been through in the past. I know you've been through a lot. Whoever you are listening to this lesson, you've been through a lot in life. But you made it through every trial you've ever been through, even when you thought that you wouldn't. You thinking it's the end of the world, man. You've been in that woe is me depressed spirit at least a couple times in your life, man. Guaranteed. If you're on earth, you're going to have trials. That's all a part of this, this walk, this flesh. This is Esau's world. It ain't going to be easy, man. But we got the Lord on our side, man. We got a hell of a power on our side. If we continue on that right path. So let's read this again. Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that all things work together for the good to them that love the Most High, to them who are called according to his purpose. And that's us. Many are called, few are chosen. But while you're called into this truth, if you're walking that path of integrity, walking that straight path, then whatever you're going through is going to end up working in your favor in the end, man. Like, I'm already starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel of my trials. And trust me, I've been going through some trials, but I see the light at the end. I mean, I'm starting to see, why I went through these trials. And I think it's going to turn out to be a blessing in the end, man. Because the scriptures say so. Because I'm definitely called according to his purpose. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this lesson right now. So, this is instructed to me and people like me. People such as myself, man. Let's quickly turn to the book of Micah. In chapter 7 and verse 9. All right, just ignore the pink bit in verse 10. We're going to read verse 9. Micah 7 and 9, it says, I will bear the indignation of Yahweh, because that's what it is. Let me just start right there. Indignation is righteous anger, okay? The Lord is upset with us, and rightfully so, for what our ancestors did. We sinned against the Lord and are continuing to sin against the Lord to this day. But you do have a remnant, us that are called, that are coming back. And, we're amending our ways, should I say. We're fixing ourselves. We're getting our hearts right in the sight of the Lord. And we're trying through the lessons like these to help others get their heart right and get through whatever, trials they may be facing in their personal life. So we have to bear this righteous anger that the Lord has put upon us, because it's all of the Lord. Good things and bad things come of the Lord. All these trials and tribulations, they come of the Lord. But we have to bear that. The fact that we're under curses, the fact that we ain't got nothing. We don't have inheritance. We don't have the best life in this world, man, in Esau's world, because he ain't gonna allow that to happen. He hates us. We're behind enemy lines. Like, you can't expect to have a good life in this world, man. That's why we gotta be very patient. See it for what it is. The scriptures give you comfort, man. because it puts everything in a perspective when you get your head into this book. It tells you why you're going through hell. But what does it say in Micah 7:9? It says, I will bear the indignation. I'm going to take it on the chin. I'm going to get through it. I'm not going to say, oh, what kind of a God is going to, make me go through hell after all I've done for the Lord. Come on, man. If that's your mindset, you ain't a man of the Lord. Okay, because a man of the Lord would never think that way. We love Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay, and we understand that, we sinned against the Lord. That's why, let me go ahead and read it. Micah 7:9, I will bear the indignation of Yahweh because I have sinned against him. This is why we're catching hell. So take it on the chin. We deserve it. It says, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. And now he's currently doing that. And it's ultimately going to keep building up. He's going to keep putting hell on these other nations that had us in captivity. And the reason why you ain't got nothing, the Lord got them fighting each other right now. Okay, so he's executing judgment for us. He's pleading our cause right now. The Lord cares about the cause of the poor. We're the poor. So when we cry to the Lord, repent, then, the Lord will fight for us, man. He's going to protect us. He's going to have his eye on us for good and not for evil. I will bear the indignation of Yahweh because I have sinned against him until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. So we just have to, go through it and endure and keep enduring this suffering until the Lord, brings this devil down, brings Esau Edom out of power, because that's what's ultimately getting ready to happen, so that we can actually breathe, so that we can actually live, because right now we are not living. It says, he will bring me forth to the light, which is this truth, and I shall behold his righteousness. And that's what we're doing, man. And it's only going to increase the more, time goes on, and the more we get closer to the Lord, the more we're going to behold his righteousness, man. Romans 8:18, it says, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time, because we're all catching hell, we are suffering, man. Some more than others, but we are suffering. We need out of here. We need Yahushai, man. And we got to constantly keep that spirit. The moment you start enjoying this world and thinking, nah, it's not too bad, you already failing. Because this place is bad. You might catch a break at time, but don't get too comfortable. Don't think that this life ain't that bad and maybe this place is for me just because you get a little blessing here and there, man. I hope you can handle your blessings. Don't let your blessings take you out this walk. It says, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us, because the Lord is going to glorify his elect. So whatever hell you're catching is minor compared to the reward at the end. That's what this scripture is saying. So endure whatever you may be going through. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, there's a great reward at the end. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5:16, rejoice evermore. Even when you're catching hell, we have this truth, man. So we've got everything. We got it all. We're only suffering temporarily. You know that, right? You know this is only temporary. Like, we've already won. We've already gotten the victory, okay, if we're of the elect. So just do what you got to do to be a part of the elect, and you've won. You got it all. Okay, there's going to come a time when you ain't even going to be thinking about the sufferings that you've been going through. Are you dwelling on the sufferings that you went through 20 years ago? No, you probably forgot about the sufferings that you was going through 20 years ago. And that's how it's going to be in the kingdom, man. We ain't going to be thinking about the sufferings that we're going through now. We're going to be living, and we're going to be living good. So 1 Thessalonians 5:16, rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. Prayer is power. That's spiritual power right there. Because a lot of people pray and their prayers ain't answered. Their prayer is counted as sin. All these Christians in the Christian church, their prayers counted as sin. Okay? Because they've turned their heart away from the Lord. They've turned their heart away from the law of the Lord. They say the law is done away with. Their prayer, every time they pray to the Lord, they're adding sin to sin, man. And they don't even realize it because they don't read the book. They don't read their Bible. You know, they're not taught by the prophets that are, you know, teaching the 100% truth, meaning the pure gospel. So in verse 18, 1 Thessalonians 5:18, in everything give thanks, even when you're catching hell. Give thanks that you're even living to catch the hell that you're catching, man. You ever think about that? You're like, my brother, I'm catching hell, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. But yeah, you're still living, aren't you? You're still... You ain't destroyed yet. The Lord still has his doors of mercy open on you, man. You got it all. So it says, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of the Most High and Yahushua the Anointed concerning you. It says, quench not the spirit. And that's why we got to constantly pray without ceasing, and constantly pray that the Lord, you know, takes not his Holy Spirit from you, because it's the Lord that's in control as to whether, you know, the Spirit remains on you or not. But wisdom will not remain in a malicious soul. I mean, a soul that is subject to sin. The scriptures speak about how, you know, the Lord will not, wisdom won't enter a malicious soul, and it won't dwell in a body subject to sin, you know, roughly paraphrasing. That's why you can't take the mickey and be living in sin. Verse 20, 1 Thessalonians 5:20, despise not prophesyings. You should want to prophesy. You should seek to prophesy. It says, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, which is this gospel. That's what we're holding on to. It says, abstain from all appearance of evil. So you know, walking around calling yourself a man of the Lord, you need to hold yourself, you know, to a certain degree of integrity. And anyway, I'm gonna leave that there because, you know, I just had my third interruption in this lesson, but, you know, I got through it. Either way, you know what I mean? So anyway, Lord willing, you've been edified, you know what I'm saying? Just, you know, just hold on to this spirit, man, and don't let the trials that come your way weigh you down and, you know, have you thinking that, you know, this isn't possible, this is impossible or anything, man, because, you know, it's meant to be like this. This is what's meant to happen, all right? But those that endure to the end are going to be greatly rewarded, because the Lord knows it's ain't an easy path to walk, all right? So just, you know, don't let go of this truth. Hold on to it with dear life, okay? Because this is our lifeline, literally, all right? So anyway, Lord willing, you were edified. I'm going to close out here. I want to give all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. All right, Shalom.